Hi, my name is Frank Vroenik. I'm co-owner and operator of Butcher Block 66 in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. We do custom butchering, so you bring your animal here and then we cut it up how you'd like to. Today we're going to go through the beef cut sheet. Cut sheet is our instruction, so you tell us what you want out of that animal. It goes up next to the saw and we cut it how you want it. Some of the first things we're going to ask you: name, phone number, then we need your address for our state inspection sheet. We'll get that info. Then you're going to let us know, are you getting a whole, a half, or a half of a half? Basically a half of a half is we're taking that half of an animal and we're splitting it between two people, and we divide the cuts equally all the way down until we're through it. And then we'll ask you if you want paper wrap or vacuum seal, and that comes down to personal preference. There's pros and cons to each, but whatever you want, that's what we'll do. And we can go through those pros and cons when you bring your animal in, and then you just let us know what you want. So the first thing on the cut sheet that we'll ask you about in terms of cuts is the heart, tongue, and liver, or the internals. Depending on how much you're getting, or if you're getting a half, a whole, half of a half, will dictate what we have to do to that cut in order to get it ready for the freezer. So if you're getting a whole, you get the whole heart, tongue, liver, you can have them. If you want, or if you're getting a half, then what we do is we take that heart, we take the top off, split it in half, the tongue cut in half, and then typically for our liver, we get it down to like 1 pound packages, or approximately 1 pound packages, wrap it up, and away we go. As far as other internals, there are other internals we could pull on the kill floor. One that's tends to be a little bit more popular is the oxtail. If you do want the oxtail, you need to let us know before we get on the kill floor. That way we can pull it for you. Alright, so next we are going to get into the cuts. If you don't want something in this section, we'll trim it up, we'll bone it out, and we'll grind it up for burger. That being said, we've also got a little bit more flexibility. If you get a whole animal versus a half animal versus a half of a half, we can do a little bit more with the whole animal than we can with the quarter. So the first cut that you'll be asked about is the chuck roast. And with all of our roasts, we'll ask you what size you want it. Do you want them 2 to 3 pounds, 3 to 4 pounds? It kind of depends on if you like leftovers or how many mouths you got to feed. Next cut is the English roast. English roast is a boneless arm roast or pot roast. So if you've heard of an arm roast or a pot roast, we just take the bone out of it and then you get your roast. Again, how big do you want that roast? Then we move into the short ribs. Short ribs are good, slow cooked, smoked. We can cut them up. We usually cut them up into strips, 3 to 4 ribs, about 2 inches by 3 to 4 ribs. Soup bones, if you like making soup, we take cross-cut shank bones, about 2 inches thick, and we also take some of the neck bones for your soup bones. Brisket is your next cut. If you're big into smoking, that's where it is, your brisket, you know all about it. You can also put it in a crock pot and slow cook it and make some pulled beef sandwiches, stuff like that. We can either do it as a whole brisket, so it's getting pretty hefty, or we just cut it right in half. Next we get into the steaks. You have to decide if you want bone-in steaks or boneless steaks. So this first steak, typically we cut our steaks bone-in unless you request otherwise. So your rib section, we do rib steaks, the bone-in version, and it's got an extra cap. If you want boneless, we can do rib eye. So we'll take off that cap, we'll take off the bone, and you get your ribeye. We'll also ask you how thick you want it. Do you like your steak thicker or thinner? Do you want it 3/4 of an inch on the thin end? Do you want it 1 inch on the thick end? We can go 1 1/4 inches. It's personal preference, but we can cut it to whatever thickness you'd like. So next up is your T-bones or your fillet and strip. So if you want the bone-in option, you get T-bones. If you want the boneless option, you get your New York strip and your filet mignon. So the T-bone is comprised of that New York strip on the outside and that filet mignon or that tenderloin on the inside. We do one or the other. We typically don't do both unless you get a whole animal. On a half, we usually do one or the other. So if you're getting a quarter, make sure you're on the same page with that other person if you're getting bone-in or boneless in this situation. That being said, with your T-bones, you'll get your porterhouses, and your porterhouse is a T-bone. All porterhouses are T-bones, but not all T-bones are porterhouses. It has to do with the width of that inside tenderloin. We ask 3/4 of an inch or an inch on those T-bones. Again, 2 per package. If you're doing fillet and strip, I recommend going a little bit thicker on the cut, maybe an inch, inch and a quarter, just because they're size-wise, they're not quite as big as like your T-bone. And then again, 2 per package. The sirloin steak tends to be a little bit bigger, and so we do that one per package. And again, 3/4 of an inch or an inch. I tend to recommend 3/4 of an inch on the sirloin steak. Moving to the sirloin tip, we can do that as a roast, or we can do it as steak. Personal preference. We can cut them as thick as you want, or if you're doing a roast, 2 to 3 pounds, 3 to 4 pounds. Next we have the rolled rump roast. We tie it up nice for you and package it. Again, that goes to that 2 to 3 pound, 3 to 4 pound question. After that, we move into the round of the animal. We take the top round. There's a top round, an eye round, and a bottom round. We work with the top round. We can do them as roasts. We can cut them into steaks. Typically cut them a little thinner at like 3/4 of an inch. Or we can cut up stew meat. Then we take everything that you didn't want and all the excess that we've cut off in terms of edible meat, and we grind it up twice for burger. And we can put it in 1 pound packages, or we can put it into 2 pound packages. Goes in those tubes and goes in the freezer. So that's everything that's on our cut sheet. We prefer to get all this information ahead of time if at all possible, but after your animal gets dropped off, if we don't have instructions, expect a call from us within the next couple days, and then expect another call from us within the next couple weeks to let you know that it's done and ready for pickup. Payment will be due at that time, but we'll have all the cuts boxed up with your name on it. We'll load it in the back of your truck or vehicle, and away we'll go. If you got any more questions, feel free to give us a call at 715-344-7622 to talk to us at the shop. Otherwise, you can send us an email at butcherblock66wi@gmail.com, or send us a message on Facebook and we'll try to answer any questions you have.